WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guests in studio today, Terri Lemmel and Joey Long. We are talking the restoration of the Soldiers Plot at Woodland Cemetery. First of all, Terri, good to see you. Can you pull that mic a little closer to you so we can hear you?
Good morning, Seth.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. And Joey, good to see you. How are you today? Pull your microphone closer if you would. Very good. We want to hear you, ladies, and talk about this Soldiers Plot restoration project. Terri, I know you've been on the morning show a few times the last year or so talking about this. Take us back. Remind us what's going on here. What was this project and what's it all about?
Well, really, the roots of this project began about 3 years ago when somebody sent a query to the DeWitt County Genealogical Society about one of the soldiers buried at the Soldiers Plot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know what the Soldiers Plot is, it's a group of 80 Civil War veterans who are buried together. Probably everyone is familiar with the big monument with a soldier on top in the old portion of Woodland Cemetery on the east end. So we tried to research this soldier, but had some difficulty because there was very little available information on him.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to looking around and realized that the military tombstones up there have a name and their company and battalion that they served in, but there are no dates, no birth date or death date like we're used to seeing on a tombstone. So it's hard to document those men without an additional identifier.
Right.
So the more we looked around, the more we realized that the tombstones themselves were in deplorable condition, really, many of them. Of course, some of them have been in the ground for well over 100 years.
Yeah.
The first military markers up there were probably carved wood, but when the Civil War came about, there were so many casualties that the government soon realized that the wood ones wouldn't be practical to keep up with because they needed to be replaced about every 5 years.
Right.
So they decided to go with marble tombstones, which we're all familiar with when you see the national cemeteries.
Sure.
And then in 1879, they approved the use of those stones in civilian cemeteries.
Okay.
So many of our earliest military stones up there were ordered in 1879. You can actually find those records online.
Sure. Now, you mentioned they have been there for well over 100 years. So, I mean, you're going to have natural deterioration. The elements of Mother Nature are going to take its toll, obviously. But I would also think those are going to sink into the ground and maybe be a little difficult to either pull out, restore that way. What were the challenges in restoring some of these, Terri?
Well, let me tell you, when the shovel hit the dirt, you didn't know what you were going to dig up.
Oh, really?
And very few of those stones are the same. There are also some family stones up there. And yes, they're very hard to read. And thanks to Joey in 2009, when she researched the Soldiers Plot up there, she got all the names and what was on the stones at the time, because some of them are nearly impossible to read now. And in 2009, when she was with the
I worked at the chamber.
Time.
And so it was it was a personal project that I took on in that way. But then to get the sign up, the original sign, the one that was going to be replaced soon, I actually went to at the time it was Exelon and explained my vision for a sign, and they graciously covered that, and that was under the umbrella of the Lincoln Heritage Committee of DeWitt County, which was a subcommittee of the Chamber of Commerce at the time.
Right. Sure. So this has been a long-standing effort. Even back to you're talking 2010. So
yeah, I think of it kind of as passing the baton. I love that Civil War Soldiers Plot. I love Civil War history. And like Terri, you realize, boy, if we don't get this information about these men down, it'll be lost. like some of these, lots of times with genealogy, you know, you can look at their descendants and trace back and whatnot. A lot of these young men didn't have time to make a family or have descendants, or you know, maybe didn't have family around still that would remember them and make the research easier.
Sure.
But yeah, the weather was definitely taking a toll on these. I had heard that there was talk of maybe an organization thinking of, since the stones were you know, becoming worn by weather and whatnot, of replacing all of them with new government issue headstones. And as a historian, it just freaked me out, you know.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it needs to be those stones where the widows wept, you know, the stones that were placed there at the time. And so I thought, well, what can you do to at least save these names? And so yeah, I did the research, and like Terry found, you know, there wasn't a lot of records of the burials and whatnot, and very little information, you know, other than what she mentioned to go with each man. So, you know, each of those stones represents, you know, a story, a man, a life, a sacrifice.
Sure.
And we need to keep them. We need to
preserve
keep their
those.
memory up.
And
so I'm so glad that you know, that sign was fading with time. And the stones, I think that the stones, you know, only from 2009 to now, I think they look worse, you know, as far as some of them being able to be read now than what they did then. I mean, time just, you think it passes slowly, but it can damage something like that quickly. And I'm so glad now that, you know, they took up the baton, and now.
Sure. Joey Long, Terri Lemmel, we're in studio with us today. We're talking the Soldiers Plot Restoration Project and dedicating that project. So, was this a research-based project, or was there actual physical restoration to these stones?
Yeah, there was.
Yeah,
lots of physical restoration to the stones.
Tell me about that a little bit.
We did something to nearly every stone. There are 80 men buried there, and we did something to nearly every tombstone there. The ground wants to swallow up anything that's sitting on it, especially if it has any weight. Some of the stones had been broken off. Some were missing altogether. Many were sunken almost down to where the inscription was starting to go underground. So we took a class, certain volunteers took a class from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources last June. They offer a class in historic cemetery preservation because there are certain guidelines that you need to follow, and you document everything that you do to every stone, which we did all summer long. And of course, we took a little hiatus over the winter and finished it up this spring. And so now it looks, I'm really proud of the way it looks now. It still looks a little bit like a kid that needs braces.
But it's such an improvement what you all did. She's being modest. It is beautiful.
Well, we kind of put our heart and soul into it. And there were certain volunteers that I would like to mention that were there pretty much every step of the way.
Yeah, please.
Leslie Hunt, Cheryl Lehman, Jared Hooker, and Joanne Manley. And then we had other people who would volunteer a day here or a day there until we got it all done. And now I hope that people will come on Saturday and take a look at what we've done and learn a bit more about the soldiers that are there. I think that those men are important to our history.
You mentioned trying to find more specific information about these individuals buried at this cemetery. Were you able to do that in this effort, or is that going to be something, maybe a secondary project to all this?
No, we put together 2 binders full of information on the men buried there. Those will be on display at the carriage barn at the reception following the ceremony at the cemetery.
Sure.
Most of that information came from newspapers. Although I got to tell you, the newspapers on microfilm, some of it is so black that you go blind trying to read through it. And some of that stuff was really hard to track down, but we used as many resources as we could find. Newspapers, obituaries gave a lot of information.
Sure.
Find a grave was helpful in some cases. probate files, land
Really?
records.
Yeah.
I mean, just if you're a true genealogist, you look at every resource available.
Right. Right. Yeah, for sure.
And we were able to identify definitely almost all of them. And there are 2 or 3 that we think we probably know who they were. And there's only one that we could find nothing on.
I was going to ask, what was the toughest, what was the farthest lengths you went to find information on some of these men?
Well, like I said, all those different resources, some of them, a couple of them, actually, there was one guy buried there who was born in Canada. Why he ended up in DeWitt County to join the Union Army, I don't know. But before he left, before he was mustered in, he wrote a will because he owned 80 acres in Minnesota. So here's a guy born in Canada. He owns a farm in Minnesota, and he's living in DeWitt County and joins the Army. So in his will, he left his farm to his sister in Canada. I mean, wow. How strange is that? Who would ever expect that?
That's interesting.
But again, each stone has a story.
Unearth's a great story, right? Yeah, for sure.
There are tons of stories up there, that very interesting stories that you really need to read through the book to believe it even.
This sounds like a good series for the homestead in the years ahead, Joey. Tell the stories of the tombstones at Woodland Cemetery.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of that in the past. I used to do the Pieces of the Past articles. And anytime that I would have a good Civil War soldier story, those were my favorites to write. And then I also wrote a couple of articles that this was long ago, published in a National Civil War magazine. One about 2 soldiers that are buried at the plot that have a very interesting, you couldn't make the story up. Seriously, it's such a fascinating story. And then another one about a different soldier buried there at the plot. His name is Stephen D. Robb. And he has a headstone at the soldier's plot here in Clinton, Stephen D. Robb, Company E, 20th Illinois Infantry, but also grave marker 1789 down at Shiloh, where Stephen Robb was actually killed. He has a government issue headstone down there too. Stephen D. Robb, Company E, 20th Illinois. So there are 2 bodies in 2 graves, one here, one down there at Shiloh. There's only one Stephen D. Robb, though.
Right. So where is he?
I, in my heart, believe he's here. The men who saw him fall during the battle actually disinterred him when a group of DeWitt County men came down to claim our dead so that they could be buried beside Mr. Gideon's son at the Civil War soldiers' plot. What became the Civil War soldiers' plot at that time was just a hill. And so, something went wrong in identifying. So they brought Stephen D. Robb back here. Ceremoniously, he was interred at the soldiers' plot here by people who knew him in life and saw him die. Then years later, those young men who had gone off to war, now old men, and they're at a Civil War soldiers reunion down at Shiloh. By then, all the bodies have been disinterred and laid out neatly in rows, identified if they could identify them, each one with a stone. And they saw that stone belonging to Stephen D. Robb and thought, well, this can't be. We brought him home. So something was on that person's body that led them to believe that he was Stephen D. Robb, and that's how they identified him. But in my heart, I know that Stephen D. Robb is home. Do you agree?
I agree. Why not? I can neither prove nor disprove that statement.
True.
Sure.
Late for that.
You said, Terri, you never knew what the ground was going to unearth when you put the shovel in it. Tell me about that.
Well, like I mentioned before, some of the stones were broken, but we found a couple of them that were actually broken under the ground. We dug up 2 stones. If you're familiar with the look of the military stones up there, they have a shield imprint, and then the soldier's name and his company and so forth is inside the shield. We found 2 stones in which the shield had been imprinted on the wrong end of the stone. So they buried that part. And then the top of the stone, those stones are rounded on the top and just straight across the bottom. The shield was on the straight end. And so they just engraved the soldier's information on the top without the shield and buried it that way.
Yeah.
But we were shocked when we dug that up. And another one that was surprising was one that had been placed in a keyhole base. You know, it's like a rectangle with a slot in the middle that the stone fits in.
Yeah.
The base had sunk like a good foot into the ground, but the stone didn't. Explain that.
So it's like floating? I mean, it's on that.
Yes.
Yeah, really?
You know, those stones were hard to get out of the ground because the ground doesn't want to give them up. Well, this one.
And they're already heavy.
Yeah. This one just lifted right out of the ground. And we thought, well, what the heck? And we kept digging and we knew something was down there. It kept hitting something. We finally dug it up and it was the base that was way down in there. So we restored it to the way it probably looked, or we think it looked when it was put there.
Wow. Wow. Incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. Were with the broken stones, were you able to put those back together? If they were, yeah. There's
a special mortar that you use to put them back together, which we learned about in that class that we took from the IDNR. And
wow. How about that?
Then we use a product called D2. Now I know that there's been quite a bit of cleaning done up there before, like Kelby McMath took his class out there and cleaned them and stuff. But to really get results with the D2, you need to spray it on and then just walk away, because it works over time with sunshine and rain, and eventually those stones just whiten up like they were when they were put there.
No kidding. Wow. Very neat. Terri, let's go to break. We'll come back, talk about the dedication this weekend, but give us a preview of the dedication, the when, the where, what's going on there real fast.
It's Saturday morning. I know there's a lot going on this weekend, but it's 10 o'clock in the morning. So that can be the first thing on your to-do list for the day. 10 o'clock at the cemetery, there will be a ceremony. We have Joey's going to talk about the sign replacement. The Bloomington Normal American Legion Color Guard is going to do the Color Guard services, and they have a special salute to military personnel because it's also Armed Forces Day.
Sure. Okay. Very good. Well, I'll tell you what, let's dive more into that on the other side of the break. But again, that comes up Saturday morning, 10 o'clock. It is the Soldiers Plot Restoration dedication ceremony. And we'll talk more with Joey Long, Terri Lemmel coming up on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
It's never too early to start thinking about back-to-school preparations. Part of getting your kids ready for the new school year means making sure they're healthy. SIU Center for Family Medicine is here to help with back-to-school and sports physicals. Healthy kids learn better and play harder. Call 217-735-2317 today to schedule your appointment. That's 217-735-2317. SIU Medicine. Forward for you.
Here's Clinton Save-A-Lot owner Dave Jackson on how he works to save you money every day.
I know the retails at the stores indicator probably better than most of the people in the stores know. I monitor this closely so customers do not have to. And then you don't have to spend $40 or $30 driving round trip at 60 cents a mile to Decatur or Lincoln or Bloomington. That's real numbers. It's 60, 70 cents a mile to drive your car.
And as Clinton Save-A-Lot owner Dave Jackson always says,
hope to see you soon.
SIU Center for Family Medicine is here to help with back-to-school and sports physicals. Healthy kids learn better and play harder. Call 217-735-2317 today to schedule your appointment. That's 217-735-2317. SIU Medicine. Forward for you.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook. brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Again, Terri Lemmel, Joey Long with the DeWitt County Genealogical Society. We're talking the Soldiers Plot Cemetery restoration and dedication ceremony this Saturday at 10 a.m. Terri, tell us a little bit more about what's going on this Saturday, what's going to be out there, what folks can expect. How about that?
Well, like I was saying, Joey Long is going to unveil the new sign. And one of our Genealogical Society members, in fact, he's our treasurer, Milton Emerson, is a member of the Bloomington Normal American Legion, and he's on their color guard. And they have a special program, salute to military personnel that they do. So they're going to provide those services. And we hope that all our local veterans and current military personnel will come because we want them to be our guests at this event. And then we have Walt and Linda Hunt Oler will be singing a couple of things. They're going to sing the national anthem and the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Probably a lot of people, probably a lot of your listeners went to school with Linda Hunt. She's from the Kenny area. She used to be part of the Good News Trio. There are probably a lot of people who remember that little singing group. And then I'm going to talk about our experience restoring the cemetery up there. Pastor Scott Marsh is going to offer a blessing, and then, there will be the 21 gun salute and all that. And then as soon as that is over, we will change location to the carriage barn at the homestead for a reception. And that will include a luncheon.
Okay, very good.
Fried chicken from Kirby Foods.
Can't beat it. Very good. Ladies, I hate to do this to you. I'm so sorry. We're out of time for today. Again, join Joey Long and Terri Lemmel and the DeWitt County Genealogical Society for the Soldiers Plot rededication.
WHOW.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. Wholesale inflation came in much hotter last month than many economists had been expecting. 1.4% jump in prices from March, 6% higher than a year ago. The cost of energy led the way higher. President Trump is in China now for